If you don't immediately start using PKVid, I am going to have a huge problem with you.
So yes, all of those videos you just saw were generated by PKVid. There's been a lot of progress since the last video with the MVP. We now have project composition, adding texts, multiple videos on screen, and even auto captions. So I'm going to walk through each of those changes. I recorded logs as I went through each of them, and you can skip around or you don't have to watch this at all. But if you're curious how it's done and the process that I went through, watch on. So I just made some progress on PKVid, wanted to document it real quick. The task was to support project composition, and I think we've got it. Here's the config file. At the top level we have some project, we have some clips. One's just a video, the other is a subproject, which itself has 2 videos in it that get composed. And if you run PKVid against this, which I won't do because it takes a few seconds, you get nested .mp4 rendered, so that's the 2 clips together, 3 seconds plus 3 seconds, and then you get some project.mp4, which is all 3 clips together, one after the other. So this is pretty exciting. And what was the hardest part of this? Figuring out that if you want a self-referencing Pydantic type, in this example it is subproject contains a project config contains subprojects and videos. So I was getting all kinds of circular reference issues and things like that. The key was from future import annotations, and it fixed itself. It just works. So I added that as a comment and a link to the Pydantic docs that told me to do that. So that's pretty cool stuff. I don't think this warrants its own video because I already made one today, so I'm just gonna wait until I have more merge requests and I'll put them all in one video. But the big changes in this one, just adding those models for different clip types. One other thing was, if you want Pydantic to parse subtypes and not make everything a clip, originally I had this type to be list of clip, but if you make it a union of the subtypes, then it actually binds to whichever matches. So you'll get a video object or a subproject object. Otherwise you'll just get everything as clip objects, and that's not useful because it just dumps the subfields that exist in the subtypes. And then basically all it's doing is, if it's a subproject, then it recursively creates the project and renders it, which render now outputs to the output file name, which is just the name that you provide in the config for that project. It outputs the subproject, and then it takes that rendered clip and adds it as a video, just like it does for the regular video clip type. And of course we updated the config JSON. So I'm going to merge this in pretty shortly, but I wanted to document where it's at and the things I learned along the way. Okay, this is getting pretty interesting. Check this out. This video was generated from a config file. There's some text. It was really short. There's some text again. It was a little longer. And that's it. This config file generated that. So we have the main project. It has a 15 frame text. It has a 30 frame text. It has the Mr. Krabs sample. And then there's a subproject with, here's Mr. Krabs a second time for only 5 frames, so it's very fast. And then the video, and then we have a third time, and then the video again. So like just a few lines of code, we're starting to be able to get some serious complexity in our video very easily, which is pretty exciting. Also, I added so that it outputs the project's Blender file every time that it renders. So if you ever want to take a look at what the actual project looks like, you can just open up the Blender file, go to video editing, and you see there's a little bit of text. There's an audio and video strip, there's more text, and there's an audio video strip. So you can investigate exactly what it looks like in Blender, and you can play with it. So I'm pretty excited. I'm going to keep pushing, but so far so good. In case you're curious, here's the code. Ended up having to save projects and open new ones when doing the subprojects to avoid everything colliding on the same video strip editor. Using absolute paths for the clips and the file names also seemed to help straighten out some bugs and things. And then I just stole our add text method from the previous Blender tutorials on this channel and added, video clip was already there. I added this text clip, which has type, obviously body and length. And then down below, when we're rendering, we go ahead and create a new project. When we render a project, we save our project before we call render on any subprojects because it's going to create a new project and blow our changes away. Then once it's done, we reopen the project that we saved before calling the subproject. The text, all we do is just, tack it on there, nothing big going on here. And then at the very end, it saves the project right before doing the main render. So the final project save should contain exactly what was rendered, which means that while it's rendering, you can pop open the project and take a look. There's no need to wait for it to be done to inspect. And one other note is that when it saves the project, it deletes the existing project and overwrites it. So we have multiple calls to save project in here, but the last one should have the actual final version of that project. And then here's just some edits to the config file to make it more interesting, and that's about it. Next step is to support multiple videos on screen. This will solidify the start and end times of videos and how they layer as well. Excited for that, so let's try it out. Okay, wow, so another big update is, check this out. First of all, I converted this to YAML. Well, let's just start with what it looks like. This is what it looks like now. We have multiple frames positioned in different places. We have a subproject, and you can see that the subproject rendered out in full size. So we're able to render the subproject out and then treat it like its own video clip, move things around, and have multiple clips on the same frame, which is awesome. I'm very excited. So you have the first two texts, they're just kind of the default. And then what we do is we set the channel, and we have a video where we set the scale and the offset to be in the top left corner. Then we have another video. We basically do the same thing. We bump up the channel, and then we have this start with last set to true. And that's the case for the next three. So that start with last just moves them up. And here, let me just show the project file. So if you open up the project file, this is what you see. And it's exactly what is described in our config file. We have the four pieces, and they're all laid out in their own way. And that's it. So wow, this is starting to get really powerful, especially considering you don't have to use a static config file if you don't want to. Some of this stuff could be scripted. So as long as you're creating the objects in models.py, you can render it out, which I'm pretty excited about it. I have some other projects that I'd like to start using this on too. So I'm going to use it and see what happens and see what improvements I perceive as a user. So upcoming issues other than this one: editing silences, adding a captions effect, and auto-aligning video from separate sources. That would be really cool if I could figure out a way to do that. And then before I merge this in, I'll just go through the code really quick. Adding the text, just specified the channel and cleaned up the coding. Clip got a lot of additions. Start with last, the channel, and the offset and the scale. Text was updated so the length is optional. And project could still use some more refactoring, but for the most part, it's working well enough with all these pieces together. I abstracted as much as I could out so that there's common code. It's good enough for now. So that's it for this MR. I'm going to merge this in as well. Check this out.
If you don't immediately start using PKVid, I am going to have a huge problem with you. If you don't immediately start using
Okay, so we'll take his word for it, and we should immediately start using it. But if you look here, here's another example of text-to-speech made using PKVid. Here's a quick video to test out text-to-speech. I'm going to keep it short so that I don't spend all day rendering it. So yeah, it automatically does the captions, no input required. And then for some reason this was super long, but at the end it does compose. So let me show you the config file that generated that. You have the filter in the beginning, which basically just renders the video out with captions, and then it has the other stuff that's been there for a while. It all works really well. The way it works is in filters.py, there is an add captions filter that basically uses Whisper from OpenAI to generate captions, and then it generates a bunch of text objects in our config. Well, these are config objects, right? And then it returns a project config. So basically it takes this video as an input and generates a sub project. And then in project.py, did some refactoring here, and basically it imports the module that you specify and the function, and runs that function on it to get the sub project, and then adds the sub project the same way it does the other sub projects. So in our config, we specify a filter. We say it's going to be in pkvid.filters. It's going to be the add captions function. And we're going to have a video, and we provide a path to the video. And that's it. So just a quick run through of this merge request. Added a remove video function, which I needed, but then I deleted the code that needed it, but I'll leave it there anyway. Text added size. So we just are able to specify size now. I put everything into a render directory, you saw the filter already. We added the filter type of model, which is right here, and project just basically organized everything under the adder function for the type of object or the type of clip it is, and some of these reference each other, so that kind of solves some of the repetition. Things are still pretty messy with this underscore start frame thing. It works, but it's not really clear why or how it works in the code, so that needs a little refactoring still, but I think it's improved. Updated the sample thing and installed OpenAI Whisper, and that's about it. Pretty straightforward merge request, just adds filters and then adds one to do the auto captioning. So this was a really long video. If you watched the whole thing, I'm amazed because it was probably pretty boring. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you're interested in contributing to PKVid, if you have feature ideas, feel free to write up an issue or join the Discord and we can talk about it. And of course, if you're looking for the Discord link, it's in the top right corner of the website at PageKey.io. That's about it. Thanks for watching.